Hello and welcome to a special edition of Dialogue, Space Exploration for a Shared Future, a co-production of China Global Television Network and the International Astronautical Federation. I'm Xiaojim. Despite the challenges and uncertainties on the ground, we the human have spared no efforts to reach further in space. At a time when we see a trend of divergences and delinking on the rise, a collective idea and target is even more precious. During the time of the International Astronautical Congress 2022, we are happy to have experts, professionals, and space enthusiasts from different parts of the world to share their expertise and thoughts together. Tonight, we will begin our own exploration with a few words from each of our three distinguished guests. To start things off, we have Mr. Joseph Aschbacher, Director General of the European Space Agency. Welcome.
Peaceful cooperation in space exploration is a distinctive feature of the space age and an important legacy of 20th century space activities. While the space age is relatively young and was born in a time of intense competition between nations, one of the most important achievements is the fact that space increasingly became the setting for fruitful and peaceful cooperation among nations. Space exploration is to be a global, peaceful, cooperative endeavor. To facilitate this, ESA, the European Space Agency, together with a number of other international space agencies, established the International Space Exploration Coordination Group, or ISECG, which now comprises 27 space agencies worldwide, including all the major spacefaring nations as well as the emerging ones. This global forum publishes a global exploration roadmap on a regular basis. Aligned with the ISECG Global Exploration Roadmap, a human voyage to Mars is the horizon goal of ESA's Terra Nova strategy roadmap. The ultimate goal only makes sense and is only achievable if carried out on the basis of global cooperation. The European Space Agency's Agenda 2025 sets out the ambition of sending Europeans to the moon by 2030 and the vision for Europeans to be part of a human voyage to Mars by 2040, both as part of international cooperative programs. To make this happen, Europe needs to develop autonomous capabilities, bringing resilience and opening up collaborative opportunities with even more visible roles that deliver benefits and leadership. That is why I have begun discussing and reflecting on a European autonomous cargo and crew transportation capability with European leaders at the highest level. At the Space Summit in February 2022, European leaders, led by French President Emmanuel Macron, tasked the European Space Agency with preparing the case for embarking on this endeavor. A new era of space exploration is about to begin. One that will return women and men to the surface of the moon and around its orbit to prepare missions to more far-flung destinations. Through the European Space Agency, Europe is committed to maintaining its role as the solid, reliable partner it has been thus far, and even to enhancing its role internationally. We are also committed to keeping space exploration a truly global and peaceful endeavor for the benefit of all humankind.
Thank you, Mr. Aschbacher. And next is Mr. Clayton Murray, incoming President of the International Astronautical Federation and Chief Revenue Officer of the Voyager Space Holdings. Please.
Greetings. I'm Clay Murray, President of the International Astronautical Federation, and I'm here to talk about global cooperation in space exploration. Global collaboration in space brings diversity of thinking, diversity of planning, customers, users, and all the elements that are needed to build a sustainable space ecosystem. Up until a few years ago, space was only accessible to a few nations. It was a strategic capability, but we now live in a multi-actor space universe, where countries large and small, where companies large and small are building and operating space systems. International norms and safe practices will allow all these actors to thrive in an emerging space economy. But safe and responsible practices are needed to also ensure that the cost of access to space remains low as we try to bring users into this thriving space marketplace. We need space to be peaceful and a sustainable home for exploration, tourism, discovery, and research, and most importantly, to understand climate change. New actors in our space ecosystem are bringing reusable launch systems, on-orbit servicing capabilities, space debris mitigation, high-speed optical communications, and most interestingly, private human spaceflight. I've worked in the space sector for almost 3 decades now, and I can tell you that this is the most exciting time I have ever experienced. We see a new wave of young people that are entering into the space world. They're hungry to go to space and to use space and its unlimited resources. They want to go to space to make life better here on planet Earth. Groups like the International Astronautical Federation were created at times when leading global space actors needed a path for collaboration. And the IAF have helped shape that world for over 70 years now, where countries and companies can come together to discuss the most pressing issues before us on space. I look forward to the IAF continuing in this position as I serve as president for the next 3 years, so we can work with space actors, agencies, universities, and companies to build a thriving space economy in an open forum. Last December, we witnessed the launch of the James Webb Space Telescope from French Guyana. This amazing time machine is now looking back in history more than 13 billion years with its golden hexagonal mirrors and basically teaching us about the origins of our universe. These images help us to realize the size and scope of our universe, to put into perspective the task we have at hand for space exploration, and to realize how far we have to go to understanding humanity's place in the vast expanse of space. The initial images are quite amazing, and I look forward in the coming months to seeing more images come and us learning about the origins of our solar system. Please know that the future for space exploration is bright. We need more collaboration to enable a sustainable future in space, and together we can make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. And our last speaker for this session is Mr. Wang Xiaojim, President of the China Academy of Launch Vehicle Technology. Let's have a listen.
Dear colleagues and friends from all over the world, my name is Wang Xiaojim. I am honored to participate in this TV forum on space exploration for a shared future, jointly organized by IAF and CGTN. First of all, what I want to say is that the faster than ever increase in the depth and breadth of human space exploration requires us to strengthen cooperation for peaceful exploration. In recent years, space science and technology have developed rapidly, especially with the continuous progress in technologies such as reusable launch vehicles, miniaturized satellites, manned spaceflight, and deep space exploration. Space missions are becoming more frequent and larger in scale. I believe in the near future, large-scale space infrastructures, lunar bases, and manned Mars exploration will all become a reality, and space missions will become more ambitious, requiring us to strengthen our solidarity and cooperation, truly break the boundaries, and bring into play the greatest capabilities of mankind so that we can continue to make history. Secondly, space exploration is accelerating the progress of human civilization, which also requires us to strengthen cooperation. Space industries such as communications, navigation, and remote sensing provide increasingly sophisticated services to human society. In the future, emerging industries represented by space resource development, space tourism, and space manufacturing will flourish, and space technology will be more closely bound with human life. This requires us to strengthen cooperation and share the benefits of space exploration with all mankind, while also promoting public awareness of and investment in space industries. In addition, global cooperation is even more necessary to tackle common challenges facing humanity, such as asteroid defense. Last but not least, China's space industry is willing to work with the rest of the world to continuously strengthen cooperation and exchanges, share the fruits of development, discuss rules, and build a space community of a shared future for all mankind. In recent years, China has made new achievements in space exploration, represented by the new generation of launch vehicles, the construction of China's space station, lunar explorations, and the Mars mission, and research on manned lunar exploration. China is willing to strengthen cooperation and exchanges with countries around the world in multiple fields, such as launch vehicles, communications, navigation, remote sensing, space debris removal, manned spaceflight, deep space exploration and space industry applications, as well as share the fruits of China's space industry development. We'll discuss how to deal with the new challenges in large-scale space exploration, work together to make rules and create greater achievements, and build a space community of a shared future for all mankind.
Our guests have provided a good start and food for thought. Let's dive directly into the discussion. Joining me on the stage for this part are, so we have Dunay Badhanov, Vice Chairman of the Space Agency of the Republic of Azerbaijan, and Pascal Arinfort, IAF President, and Steve Essinghart, Senior Vice President of the Space Foundation. And in the studio, we have Xiaojim Song, Director General of Asia Pacific Space Cooperation Organization, and Dr. Zhang Fan, Associate Professor of Astronomy with Beijing Normal University. We also have a strong presence of online audience who will also weigh in on this very important topic. So Pascal, why don't we start with you? For those who are not following the space exploration closely, tell us, where are we now? What are the frontier research and space exploration?
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me here. And it's always exciting to talk about this really driving topic. So I think we all know that space exploration is a driver for innovation. And there have never been more missions planned to the Earth, Moon, Mars space, including, of course, also near-Earth asteroids. So I think international cooperation will stay the key in this large-scale endeavor. And I just want to say that when you look at the last statistics, deep space missions are estimated to triple compared to the last decade. And they will account for about 20% of all space missions. And this new age of space exploration merges, I think, the ambitions of space agency industry, space entrepreneurs, academia, research organizations. And while the plans to send astronauts to the moon are likely really to occur within this decade, we will have likely also new space stations. But for Mars, I think robotic exploration will be the main priority for the near future. And I think as a concluding sentence, I would say that the upcoming future space exploration ventures, they really will transcend many disciplines and industries and involve many stakeholders and entail much more scientific and technological activities. And it will be very different than in the previous decades. And there is a lot what we can expect.
Mm-hmm. Well, Steve, as Pascal has said, it requires, space exploration requires this cooperation, coordination among different nations. So tell us, what are the better ways, probably, or what challenges we have, we need to overcome in order to achieve a better cooperation internationally in this area of space exploration?
Yes, well, and I want to join my colleagues in thanking you for hosting us here today for this important discussion. Your question is very appropriate. International relations global collaboration is important. There's a lot of talk about how we don't go alone. And I think you see this very particularly with the scientists who work and collaborate on these projects across national borders. Yes, there's challenges, and I speak here as a representative of a non-governmental organization, but there are challenges, but there are ways through institutions such as the Federation and so forth that this kind of discussion and collaboration is able to go forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, Yan-Song, you are leading an organization for the Asia Pacific Space Exploration Cooperation. I wonder, what's your take of international cooperation? Like what we need to do probably, or what kind of challenges we need to overcome in order to achieve a better cooperation for better results?
Well, I think cooperation takes longer and go further, but competition go faster. So sometimes we have a combination of competition and cooperation is a good thing. For example, we have exploration of the moon. We have a very rapid development program in China for Chang'e missions. We landed on the surface of the moon and also far side of the moon, and also taking samples back to Earth. So these are our indigenous and independent Chinese programs. But however, I think also there is an international initiative of exploring the moon and Mars and beyond. So we have also been to the Mars, and I think these are a result of competition. But the competition results and achievement should be merged with international partners so that we can have more extensive and more collaborative projects for more resulting scientific results.
Mm-hmm. Steve, if you look at the frontier, research, we mentioned earlier, the U.S. has this Artemis, moon mission. So tell us, the U.S. was, went to the moon for several times before that. So why the U.S., is going back to the moon? What is the purpose of this mission?
Well, it's to enable us to go even further, as this is a great first step in returning us to the lunar surface, going on to Mars. There's so much technology, there's so much organizational training and everything that can take place, and just a lot of benefits from the stepping stone approach of going forward.
Mm-hmm. But Steve, how would it be different from previous trips?
By going there to stay. And also just looking where we are, technology-wise difference since the first landings and so forth. There's a lot more science that can be gained and everything else like that. And I really think that that's one of the important things in this discussion, is to keep coming back to the science and what it can bring to all of humanity. I was just going to add on to your earlier question that we're involved with several of your colleagues on a Space Benefits for Health conference that we have done as an initiative for a couple of years. It's areas like that that benefit all of humanity that I think will help us get through some of the competitive stuff that has been talked about.
Absolutely. Yan-Song, speak of this moon exploration, many, seems like there will be some long-term presence probably by different countries, different groups with some cooperation, and then using the moon as a stepping stone for other destinations. So are we going to see, do you predict, probably a number of permanent presence on the moon?
Well, I think the moon is still, let's say, it's part of exploration, but it's still circling around Earth. So it's well, somebody consider that as a near-Earth object, but it's still it's a major stepping stone for explorations, in particular for interplanetary explorations. So the lunar presence, either human or robotic missions, are very important for our future missions. This is, of course, the first is to study the in situ resources that is possible to be used for further deep space missions. And second is to have a better understanding chemically, physically, biologically, and isotopically. So many other perspectives of science missions to better understand the moon, so that can also bring benefits to people on Earth. So I would say that the Chinese programs have a rainbow of robotic missions stretching all over this decade. And also we do see in the particular parallel running of human missions in China, and also emerge with robotic missions to the lunar surface in a coming decade. So I see a permanent presence of Chinese mission and also international missions, and even possibly lunar village or moon village or lunar base, scientific base, or even some of the landing sites and in situ resources can be fully utilized by the humanity for deep space missions.
Sounds the prospect is exciting. You know, you have a lunar village on the moon. So John Pham, you know, see like we have bases of the lunar village on the moon. In what way that will help us, to do further, go further into the space and do more exploration to other destinations?
Right. So the moon is actually quite different. As the other guys just mentioned, it's a near Earth object. It's in the Earth's magnetic field, so it's protected from solar radiation and stuff like that. So getting there is so much easier than getting to Mars. That on the way to Mars, if you don't go there fast enough by developing some crazy fast engines, you get cancer halfway through. So by going to the moon, it's a test stone for you to develop the capabilities that's necessary. And to be honest, personally, I don't see the point of human going further than the moon. I think robotic mission is fair enough. I'm a scientist. I represent in the scientific community. There's a large portion of people think like that. But I do think going to the moon is necessary for humans because we want to put substantial infrastructure on the moon for things like astronomy, and we would like people to be there to do some minimal assembly and putting stuff spread it around the place, and to repair things when things break. So I do see the moon mission being very helpful. And if you really want to go further, in situ resource utilization, not so much going further on, in my opinion, actually, by bringing that technology back on Earth, because that's the most extreme situation you can have. If you can handle that kind of situations, you can surely, deal with more harsh situations on Earth and make use of that. So that's what I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm. Well, Pascal, I want to have your opinion about that. And also, the chief astronaut of NASA, Jones Space Center, Reed Wiseman, said their ultimate goal is Mars instead of Moon. So obviously, other countries like China, Russia, also have their Mars exploration endeavors. So share with us the recent progress people made on Mars exploration, and also say the Moon is enough.
Right now, we have really this amazing fleet of space missions, which is currently investigating Mars. I'm just discussing the recent ones because otherwise it would take an hour. But we have an emerging space nation, the United Arab Emirates, which is investigating the Martian atmosphere with its Mars orbiter Hope. And we have, of course, China's very successful Tianwen-1 mission, and with this really successful Rover Zhurong, which landed at the first attempt, which was really a very, very successful endeavor. And we have also NASA's Perseverance rover, which is currently collecting Mars samples in the Jezero crater on Mars to be returned by a future international mass sample return mission. So Mars is really our neighbor planet that may have also developed life in the past. There might be still, extant life on Mars. We don't know, but many of those missions on Mars are also, investigating how planet Mars has developed differently from Earth, and could there be life, or could there have been life on Mars, but also in preparation for humans to live on other planets or going to Mars. I just want to really say, which has been mentioned already before by my colleague, that the radiation risk is something which we really have to explore in order to bring humans to Mars in real detail, in order to have a safe human exploration. So there is a lot to do, a lot of research which has to be done on astronaut health and on how to build habitats, many technologies, and in situ resource utilization. And many of those things can be really prepared on the moon.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on in terms of, we mentioned earlier about the space, cooperation. There's the International Space Station, of course, which is to retire because it already basically overstayed its designed service life for several years. So Dunai, what does the retirement mean for the international space exploration?
So firstly, we need to remember that the International Space Station is one of the greatest engineering achievements in the history of the world. And it's a proof that continuous human presence in space can happen. Since 2000, you know that there have always been humans living and working in the ISS. And space station plays an important role in all universe in the world. It has benefits for humans on Earth to being utilized for research and experimentation in space. This idea amplifies the importance of human being in ISS and human being in the space. On the other hand, the presence of human in the space can create new pathways to open up collaborations to create new space stations.
Steve, what are some of the potential impact when the ISS retired?
Well, there's a couple of different ways of looking at it. Obviously, there are new and potentially private space stations that may be able to provide some of the similar research. I'll leave to the politicians exactly when the retirement of the ISS is going to take place. But I would emphasize what Danae has said, that the importance that this marvelous engineering achievement has made has transcended really the engineering aspect and shown that many nations can collaborate and work in space together. And it's quite the achievement in terms of what that has been able to bring.
Mm-hmm. Zhangfang, China is building its own space station. Obviously, during the process, you want to make sure it is safe, it is enduring for the long time to come, for researchers to do their exploration over there. So what is the current state, and what are the potential challenges in terms of like safety even?
Right. So right now, the crew up there, they're the assembly crew. During their tenure up there, there will be 2 lab modules launched, and they would dock head-on with the station and then transpose to the sideways. And then in the end, it will be a T-shaped phase 1 totally completed space station by the end of this year. In terms of safety, space is actually quite dangerous because there are things in orbit, they travel at tens of kilometers per second, and the relative velocity is similar magnitude. So if there's any debris or other satellites coming in and hit you, it could cause a lot of damage. So for the larger debris, people sort of track them on Earth by using telescopes. And then if they're coming in too close, you would speed up your spacecraft to rendezvous earlier to avoid collision, and then sort of simultaneously raise the orbit. That's one way of doing things. And then for the smaller ones, you really can't see them. And even if they don't penetrate the hull of your ship, there's still the problem that if they cut shrapnels, cut little things into your handles on the outside, then for example, if you have astronauts going out and then grabbing onto it, you cut through the glove and you lose pressure. So that's sort of things that are really dangerous. And also radiation, once again, is dangerous again. The space station is not that far away from Earth's surface, so the magnetic field is still there to protect it. However, it's above the atmosphere, so the heavier cosmic ray sort of nuclei, protons and alpha particles, other things, the heavier ones, usually blocked by the atmosphere, they are still up there. So you need to monitor things like the solar activities. For example, if you're doing spacewalk and the sun suddenly flares up, you really want the astronauts back in quickly. So monitoring carefully the space environment, space weather is also quite important for
a lot of challenges, but that's a purpose to go there probably, partly,
right.
And to experience and to see what we can do to deal with that challenges. Okay, Pascal, we know that international cooperation. So is the Chinese space station or experiments. China is cooperating with like 17 partners, including the European Space Agency. So tell us more about that. What about the cooperation? How are things going on?
Yes. Yeah, I think we have already established how important international cooperation is, and most of the space exploration mission, also addressing planetary science and astronomy, are conducted in cooperation with international partners. And this means that what Steve said, that the thousands of scientists and engineers were working together and gaining mutual respect, irrespective of political differences. So this will be always a very, very important component in order to drive science and technology advances in the future. And I think that international cooperation will prevail, in particular also in low Earth orbit, as it has done for the space station, which I think has been conducting more than 3,000 experiments with over 100 countries. And also the China space station seeks actively scientific cooperation with many partners. And also the proposals from commercial actors to build new space stations, where there are many. This is announced under the important perspective that this will be used by many stakeholders worldwide. So I think that international cooperation, in particular concerning the scientific and technology advances, are important because, as we have said before, many of those technologies which are actually tested in low Earth orbit, they are very, very important for sustainability on Earth. And we really want to continue that. And certainly, the International Astronautical Federation has been really working for 70 years continuously to connect the entire space community, overcoming political and geographical boundaries, and to focus on common goals and endeavors.
Mm-hmm. Well, cooperation in particular, the pressing, obviously, needs for dealing with climate change on Earth, that kind of technologies. If you look at the challenges and dangers in the space, picking up on what previous speakers talked about, space debris, for example, is there any rules, or do we need any rules to probably standardize, how to deal with that, as more and more satellites and more spacecraft in the space to create a safe or better environment, maybe?
Every satellite, when it enters space, has a potential to become a debris. So space debris or space junk consists of parts of launchers and all satellites orbiting the Earth, put the other active satellites, missions, and manned space stations under collision risks. While space debris can create side effects during future space travel, it will lead to significant problems for spaceflight around the Earth. Not only has a hazard for the missions, space debris increase the cost for satellite operators. They have to estimate protective and mitigation measures, including insurance solutions and for launching and etc. and operating the satellites. And one of the ideal way to establish procedures for future efforts is to develop space stational awareness programs that could aid future space traffic management. And on the other hand, all these challenges make us to build better technological solutions because in using the space stational awareness programs, we can predict mostly the orbit of the space junk for the large space debris. But what will happen when we move to interplanetary missions, we cannot predict anything. And once being on the orbit of the Earth and learning how to mitigate it by building more robust systems, we are somehow making us ready for the more harsh environment in the space out of solar system.
Steve, we are seeing more and more participants in this space exploration. In addition to the government agencies, you have these private entrepreneurs, private investors, etc. Many people are talking about, building a framework which is fair and transparent, and to ensure like every participant could be, say, act in a responsible and also transparent manner. But how can we do it? Can UN play a role in this respect?
The UN does play a role in some respects through the Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. There are a number of agreements, bilaterally, multilaterally, anything that helps bring everyone together, such as the IAF and the Congress, will help towards that understanding. There'll be obviously official processes that have to take place. But I think there's one point that we could talk about just a bit that transcends all of it, and that's we don't explore just for the sake of exploration. We explore and take the risk that the professor talked about and everything else for the sake of bettering life on Earth, and that's for bettering everyone's life on Earth, not just in any one nation. And for all of these efforts, at the end of the day, I think are to better life on Earth, better our understanding, better our science, what it can do for medicine, what it can do for climate and everything else. And I think that as sort of an ultimate purpose of exploration is something that we should not lose sight of.
Okay, now let's take a look at what kind of questions and the comments from our audience. Now we have Jing Ziyao. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Jing Ziyao, and I'm a master student from Beijing Foreign Studies University. And I have a question about Chinese and US cooperation in the aerospace industry. So do you foresee more cooperation or more competition between China and the US in terms of space exploration? Thank you.
Okay, let me see. Yansu, you want to go ahead?
Okay, I think there are a number of legislative issues that stopping or halting these two countries to have bilateral cooperation in space at the governmental level. However, we do see explorations of approaches and possibilities by commercial sectors. I think at the governmental level, we still have some issues. We did have exploration on cooperation on moon missions. For example, we had a bilateral discussion with NASA on the lunar exploration on Chang'e 3 and Chang'e 4. And also, these scientific studies are less sensitive. And also, in the previous administration in U.S., we also have a bilateral discussion mechanism between the two governments. That is between China National Space Administration and the State Department of U.S., what we call civil space dialogue. This has continued for 4 or 5 seminars, and including sub-discussions on space debris and climate changes and many other issues. So I think there's great potential to be explored by the government's level and also by the industry level and commercial sectors, as there are many possibilities to cooperate. So I think I see good potentials and good possibilities in the future.
Steve, you want to respond to that question?
Sure, and actually, I'll again, state that I'm speaking as both an individual and as a non-governmental organization. I'm not speaking specifically for the country, but I would agree almost entirely with what my colleague just said. And I think we need to look at this a couple of different ways. That it's over time versus a very contemporary current situation, that there are more possibilities. The same thing had existed, at the height of the Cold War, when the United States and then Soviet Union then and Russia collaborated and worked on the International Station. Again, over time, things were working differently there. I've known our colleague here for, like we talked about before the show, 20 years. We've seen a lot of different stages of cooperation and collaboration, and at the level of the scientists, as we talked about earlier, and at the level of non-governmental and various kind of multi-level things. I remain optimistic that there are opportunities in the future. And his point about some of the private enterprises, NanoRacks and others that have been able to work through things is an important discussion also.
Well, short-term and long-term cooperation benefits both sides. Hopefully, political differences will be dealt with effectively. Any further comments or questions? Shen Putung, please.
Thank you. My question is, there have been sanctions from the US against Chinese enterprises, such as China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation First Academy, China Aerospace Science and Industry Corporation Fourth Academy, and the Polytechnologies Incorporated. How might these sanctions influence China's development in space exploration?
Zhang Fan.
Not at all. Those kind of sanctions have been in place since forever. So Chinese space program is, well, the spacecraft, the rockets, and the space station itself is almost, if not completely, 100% domestically manufactured and designed. And also even the raw material that goes into them are completely domestic. So China's program has been self-reliant out of necessity. So that's not going to change anything in any. So it's kind of a formal thing, political posturing from their side. Really, it doesn't really have too much.
So in short, very little effects to no effects. More questions? Mahat Nanir, please.
Thank you for this opportunity. My question is that there is a lot of cooperation when it comes to space for all with the developing countries, whether it is in terms of trainings or hackathons or students and researchers going to different countries. But when it comes to space exploration and development of industry level cooperation, of course, there isn't much exchange there because of lack of technology readiness level. So I was wondering if there is any plan or any comments where the developing countries can be taken on board when it comes to space exploration from an industrial point of view.
I would like to have Dunai.
Thank you. And so the growth of the space activities of across the globe has led to various efforts to classify and rank countries according to their level of space sector development. It's clear that the idea of international collaboration in the space industry is not new, but access to it is very limited because of different reasons, as dual use of technology and etc. But still, we need to keep working on that. We need to strengthen international cooperation in the exploration and use of it for the peaceful purposes. For the global governance of the outer space activities, and for the development of international space law, and to foster dialogue among the spacefaring and emerging space nations. Space powers lead the space mission, and in resulting, all the space data generated from the missions are used by the scientists across the emerging countries. And so it can enable them to use the data for analyzing and having new discoveries in the universe. And even most emerging countries may have access to that because the space exploration and the astronomy are a reality. Even any space activity started in the emerging countries. So we should keep cooperating among the countries to make sure that this, at least this data is open to all scientists, and we can work on this data together so to make best use of it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Two more questions. Antonino, please.
Hello. Hi. Thank you so much. I wanted to ask an update about the international cooperation in the International Lunar Research Station. I think last year at the Global Exploration Conference, it was announced that Russia and China were working on a declaration for governing the activities, something similar to the Artemis Accords. And I wanted to ask if there is an update on the status of this document, if it's going to be released soon. And also related to this, We talk already about cooperation and that this is prevented by certain legislative issues, especially in the US. But what about coordination with the Artemis program? Because, for instance, when NASA announced the new landing sites selected for Artemis, already it was possible to discover some overlaps with the sites for the ILRS. And so how are you going to handle these overlaps in coordinating to avoid that there is interference or potential tension about who is getting which spot? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, Yan-Song, so China-Russia cooperation on the lunar exploration?
Yeah, I think that agreement has been discussed a couple of years already. It is based on the bilateral cooperation between China and Russia on lunar-based constructions or lunar scientific-based study. The Russian side is going to be contributing Luna 26, 27, and even beyond some of the Russian missions in combination with the Chinese mission. So this is also an effort for international collaborations. We want to start this initiative and then to call for international cooperations by this announcing this paper. I think this is being worked out bilaterally by these two agencies, space agency of these two countries. They pretty soon, I think they will be coming up because they're fine-tuning some of the legislative details, and also they're going to announce in appropriate locations and venue. In respect to the Artemis Accord and also the international participation, we see the most recent one is French is joining it, so it's making it 20-country Artemis Accord. The accord is more or less of a broad way of inviting international partners to join the what we call it. They call it the space gateway, and the gateway is going to be in a size lunar orbit and contributing by different countries on hardware. And I think currently China and Russia is not part of this. There are many reasons, being that we have our own independent and programs, and also there's some political issues that stop bilateral cooperations. Of course, there's a possibility of multilateral cooperation in combination for bilaterals. But this has not been very smoothly in the past, being that multilateral cooperation fora in different locations. So we think these are discouraging countries like China and Russia to join this accord. We're going to have to wait and see. Of course, we know there's a number of landing sites chosen, and also the gateway has many ambitions and missions, being human missions and human-assisted sample return missions, and many robotic missions from and to the gateway. We're looking at this in great curiosity, and also hope that in the future we can coordinate for the better.
I want to make can I make a very small comment?
Go ahead, Pascal.
Yeah,
yes.
When you go one step back and you look at the scientific and technology advances, there is the International Space Exploration Working Group, which is a organization which compiles the ideas of 26 space countries, and they are exchanging on a non-binding way, their roadmaps and how to go further on concerning scientific and technology exploration. They are wonderful documents which really show this kind of development, what you can do together in the next decades. And there went a lot of work in of many experts, and this kind of roadmaps, they can also help to to support any kind of official discussions in the future.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Pascal. Last question we have from Catherine. Next question.
This is Catherine from the Philippines, and I am a nutritionist. I'm studying on rice cultivation on the moon. But this question is not about space rice, but about space race. In the advent that economic superpower countries are already going their way towards outer space, how do we ensure that a second space race won't happen?
Yeah, Yan-Song.
Okay, I think no guarantees. I think There are many different ways. I think, as she mentioned very correctly, that economic powers, the economy and the space development programs are closely combined. You have a good economy and you have a good space programs. These are, I think, let's say, there are national interest and also there are international cooperation opportunities. What we did in the past is, like, for example, the lunar mission, the Chang'e 4. We have a successful mission of Chang'e 3, and then the redundancy of the Chang'e 3, which is Chang'e 4, we invite international partners to join. This including European institutes, advanced technologies, and also developing countries like Saudi Arabia. They also fly by with a camera. So these are different combinations of international cooperations. Of course, this very much depends on national interest. And also, different countries have their own interest. But to become a space race, this will involve a huge political and strategic considerations. I certainly hope this would not happen in the near future.
Hopefully more cooperation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Personally, I don't see it actually happening because if you talk to Chinese engineers, nobody's trying to outdo the Americans. The reason why China's going to the moon, doing the space station, they emphasize some more science. So, for example, the space station is actually a national laboratory, and it's filled to the rim with racks for experiments. It's not really about having a human presence. And also, with the lunar mission, they're already accepting proposals for manned missions to bring stuff up there. So nobody's trying to outdo the U.S., and I don't think on the U.S. side people are actually seriously taking this space race. I mean, they may sell the space race to get more funding. However, nobody's really considering China as a peer right now. You know, it's still trying to progressively go in its own pace, and also China does things in a different way. So, for example, if you look at the plans for going to Mars, doing robotic sample return missions, the U.S. tends to, or going to the moon, the U.S. tends to send multiple rockets, send lots of stuff all over there, and sort of let them work on different things. That partly because they have private companies, they have different interests, different partners from the European Union and stuff. So that they have to fragment their thing, and the Chinese missions tends to be a combo of a massive ship assembled maybe in the low Earth orbit and then go together. So approaches are very different. So it's, in a way, it's not directly comparable anymore, and in a way, it's actually good to have two different approaches to back each other up. Maybe in the case if either one doesn't work out. So I'm not too worried that this is turning out to be a very harmful space race.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, any progress by any country is to be celebrated as a human progress, right?
If I could just add real quick, there will always be national.
Yes.
Yeah, there will always be national interest of everyone involved in, and whether it's a developing nation, an economic power, or whatever, there will always be national interest at play. I think your comment about multiple approaches is important, and I would almost caution against letting a media label of space race become a driver. I think we all know from some of the discussions we've already had here how there is cooperation at the science level and the interest of individuals in that way. So, you know, let's be cautious about a media label and actually look at what the situation is.
Mm-hmm. Well, with that, we come to the end for today's discussion for our special coverage on the international space exploration efforts. Many thanks to our guests and special thanks to our partner, IAF. You can also find us on the CGTN app on YouTube. I'm Xu Qinduo. Thanks for being with us. See you next time.